All right, folks, we're going to kick off part two of some, I guess you can call it old boat updates or modifications, renovations, whatever. SeaVee now builds in their tackle station a compartment between all of the rod holders and cup holders in the very top. My boat didn't come with that because it's a 2011. I don't think they started doing it until after 2015. But after seeing it at a couple boat shows, I wanted that on my boat. It's just more storage, and more, as you know, a lot of storage on a boat is always crucial. So I went ahead and cut out the floor, or cut out the false wall. I had to build a floor and glass it in because otherwise it would just fall down onto my cooler. This may be applicable if you don't have a SeaVee. Maybe your leading post is hollow and up top and you just want to add another shelf. But, you know, I'm a DIY guy. At the end of the day, it kind of looks more commercial boat-esque. But again, I'm going to be throwing like extra tackle, lead, and things of that nature up there, so it doesn't have to be super pretty and beautiful. I think it turned out pretty good. I think it's going to be very useful for what we do. A lot of this is going to be just me talking and filming as I go along, so if you want to just kind of skip forward to the end, you can kind of see what I did. But appreciate you guys watching the video. Stay tuned. Now, what I was talking about earlier is I've got this, and older SeaVees have this, and SeaVee has, obviously, with all manufacturers, they learn over time. This right here is just like a complete waste of space. And I don't know if this is, you know, you're supposed to use this as rigging. I've just got spare magnet, and my leader, I built this when I first got the boat. Just these little sleeves here to hold spools of leader. And it's a pain in the ass when you're trying to hide extra stuff. I need to get a knife holder. But if you look down here, I just popped a cup holder out. I do not have a subfloor until you hit the tackle station, tackle storage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my multi-tool and cut out this fiberglass panel. I'm going to take all that out so it's open and exposed. And then I'm going to build a little subfloor shelf that's going to sit basically right on top of the tackle station. All right, so we got the big piece trimmed out. All I gotta do is do a little bit of sanding around the edge. I mean, it's not a super high priority, but I'm gonna just sand so I can't see any more of the black line that I originally drew. And then I'll get a rubber gasket that grabs over, kind of like a U. It'll pinch down on that, and that'll keep us from getting cut. But look at all that space. I mean, just wasted with this cover here. Now, I'm sure back in 2011, they didn't really want to do or whatever, but so now my challenge is to build a board template that will encompass the pipe work. And again, like I did this mainly to get this back seat off, but now, you know, I can put a board right on top of here, glass it in, paint it. I'll even probably sand the back of this and clean that up a little bit so it looks really professional, but because again, I'm not a professional. So, all right, so this is a 34 by 7 piece of Douglas fir. It might be cedar, actually, I'm not sure, but it is suitable for marine applications after I coat it in epoxy. And I've got some leftover, as you can see, here's a skiff we built from wood and fiberglass. So, where is it? Somewhere in this garage. There it is. So I've got some 10-ounce cloth. Again, this doesn't need to be structural. It's just gonna get glassed. Probably for no reason, but I'm gonna glass this both sides to make it stronger with epoxy. And then I'm gonna go fit it in the boat, make my notches where those support beams are, and then probably drill some holes for the rod holders, and the cup holders will drain into the rod holder exit. And again, this is probably not for everybody. I get it. You just pay the guy, whatever. If you own a SeaVee, you probably can afford to do this, but I'm not cheap, but I know how to do this because, again, I built this skiff from scratch. So I'm going to do it instead of pay the guy because I want to do it myself. So Gonna get this glassed up in 10-ounce cloth and then pop it in the boat, make sure it fits all nice, and then put thickened epoxy on the edges, sand it all smooth, and then paint it. And with bilge paint, white bilge paint, because again, it's just a storage compartment. It doesn't need to be beautiful gel coat. So that's where I'm gonna go with it. All right, so I'm picking this back up after like what feels like a month of just other boat stuff going on. So the board is cut out, glassed. That is, I think it's 1/2 inch, so it's a little bit sturdier. And I use the grinder to work down some epoxy drips. Now I'm going to use Total Fair 2-part fairing compound and pull it as thin as I possibly can, just to fill that weave so it's smooth. As thin as I can possibly pull it. You can see over here where I did some grinding, so those will get a little bit more filled. And then once that super thin coat is pulled and fills the weave, I'll let it cure. This afternoon I'll sand. I'll do the other side. Actually, I'm probably not going to do the other side. I'm just going to paint the other side with some high build primer, and then I'll sand it smooth, and I'm probably going to leave it in primer. I don't know. I might hit it with some just spray paint, honestly, because it's all sealed up. And then what I got to do next is find pipes that are going to go around the rod holders so I can drill my holes. And then I've already got this kind of tubing that I'm going to use for the cup holder drains. Once I get it painted, cut, I bought an easy, I say easy, if I can find it, here it is. So this is Total Boat Thix, DHIX. I think there just might be another name on there, but this is thickened epoxy pre-made. I didn't want to like buy another gallon of epoxy to make the thickened epoxy, so I'm going to use this to set it in the boat, and I'll wedge something up to keep it up there. And then once that cures, I mean, it's rock solid, ain't going nowhere, and we can go ahead and put the boat back together. All right, so as you can see here where I burned a little bit with the grinder because I was being lazy and wanted to super fast sand. But you can see the little patches on the edges where there's a little bit more. But I mean, guys, you just want to fill the weave. The thicker you put this on, the more pain in the ass it's going to be when it comes time to sand, and the more material you're going to have to remove. I mean, I'm talking as thin as you can get it. Sand it, hit it with the primer. I'm not even going to go through the like fairing process of hitting this with a black spray paint to find the highs and lows, because again, it's a shelf just inside my console. It's not like it's going to be the side of the boat. But you can kind of see where the darker filled holes were filled with the voids, with the compound putty, the fairing putty. I'm going to sand this in a little bit, and also the thinner you put it on, the quicker it'll cure. It is a little cooler today. I think it's in the low 60s. But the thinner you pull this stuff, the quicker it'll cure, the quicker you can get to sanding and throw down some paint. So once we're going to get that in, I'll probably flip the board over and use the grinder and grind a radius on the side, so that way when I stick it up in the boat, the epoxy has more wood to grip onto. And then, yeah, we'll get it going from there. So see you this afternoon. All right, so it's been about, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours in the sun. Just to show you guys, you can see right here and right here on the ends where the material was put on a little thicker. That stuff is not cured. This is ready to sand. This you can still indent with your fingernail, so it needs probably another hour in the sun to cook it. But basically, if I start sanding right now, that's going to gum up the paper and not come out really nice. So just letting you know when it's ready to sand. All right, so I just knocked it down with 220, and you can see it's just a little patchy. You can still see the dark areas, but it's pretty darn smooth. It's not as smooth as the cardboard, but it's smooth. So now I'm gonna go ahead and wipe it down with some denatured alcohol to get all the dust off. And I'm going to put some primer on this side, and then I'll prime the edges and prime the back, which, see, I got some stuff right there, so I got to sand that flat. But I'll prime the whole thing, and then we're going to sand it one more time. And then probably, I might put another coat of primer on this side. I don't know. We'll see how smooth it is and how it looks. But painting will be done, and then we can go get it fitted in the boat. All right, so my high build primer was rock solid. So I'm using some Total Boat epoxy bilge paint, which again, this is like, you know, high, it can take a beating because it goes in the bilge. So put a coat on yesterday. It's not perfect, but I'm gonna go ahead and sand this. And then my desk is actually made of wood, so I'm gonna screw some screws in, sand this guy smooth, and paint the whole thing again. This is the bottom, so I'm not really concerned about how it looks. I just want to sand the top so that it's nice and smooth. Put another coat of epoxy bilge paint, let it cure today, and then we're going to pop this in the boat tomorrow. All right, so I just measured the width of these rod holders, and it just so happens to be 2 inches, and I had some leftover pipe that is 2-inch interior diameter. So what I'm going to do is get these guys, and that'll look way cleaner than seeing the actual rod holders. And so when I get the floor, I'm going to measure where those pipes are, drill the holes. Then all I got to do is 1, 2, 3 cup holder tubes, which I'll put back against the back wall so out of the way. So really that'll be the only obstruction. And, you know, I'll make sure those pipes are nice and clean and white, and that should look really clean when I get it in. All right, so I went on the boat, popped this guy in, traced out where my rod holder tubes are going to go. And these tubes are essentially just so that the rod holders have somewhere to drip through. They're going to drip through on top of the tackle station that's currently in there, as the boat was originally designed. So I'm going to drill those out with, I'm assuming it's going to be a 2 1/8 bit. And then there will be some little gap between the leaning post, actual posts, and these ends. So I'm going to end up filling them with just little silicone so nothing will fall down. And then once these are in place and this guy's in place, it's still, I'll do a little bit of drying, but once it's in place, I'll go ahead and silicone around the edges. All right, it's finally time to get this thing glassed in. So I had to take out the screws on the end rod holders because the PVC pipe rubs up against the column here. So I had to kind of finagle them to get it in there. I'm gonna end up putting silicone and pressing that up so that it holds, and all you see is white. Had to make a little modification, which I'm gonna end up filling with epoxy once I tape the bottom. But I've got a stick holding it all up in place. So we're just gonna run a bead of thickened epoxy along the edges and let it cure overnight. And then I'll probably put some up under here as well. So once that cures, then I can go ahead, and that's about it really. I just got to get it cured in, and then I'll probably put some silicone around these to keep stuff from falling down in there. And then I have to run hoses from my cup holders down into the sides. So that is going to be awesome to have all that extra storage. All right, so this tube is from Total Boat. It is thick XD or XO. It's just thickened epoxy, which, I mean, that tube was like 25 bucks. I'm not gonna lie, that's expensive, but it is the perfect consistency when it comes out so that it's just gloopy enough that you can spread it like, focus, you can spread it like caulk and it just fills really, really nicely. And so I don't have to glass that because it's not going to get much weight, but I ran a thick B along here. So we're going to give this 24-hour secure. And then I'm going to come back and fill those on the top side with silicone. So that way, no wood is exposed to what could be water. Get all these fitted and put in our drainage tubes tomorrow. They'll probably run down the sides back there, and then I'll have to make some sort of wedge or something to keep, you know, weights or whatever from fall. Actually, I probably don't need to. Probably leave it open, but yeah, I'm really happy with that thickened epoxy. So looks good, and then I'll probably come back in here with some paint and just clean up the back so it all is white, even though, again, it's just a junk drawer. All right, folks, I still got to put my tackle station back in, but for the all intensive purposes of wrapping up this video, boom. From no storage to full storage, I got a rubber gasket. I dropped a rubber gasket around here on the edge of the fiberglass so that it would protect you. Filled the voids with silicone, and again, this isn't going to be like your factory SeaVee finish, and you know, I'm a DIY guy, but it's gonna be a beat up drawer. I'm gonna have a box over here for leads, extra tackle, people's phones and keys. I got drain lines hooked up to all of my cup holders. They run down the back and down the sides, and they drop out on either side like they would before. And then I just took 2-inch PVC pipe, put it up underneath the rod holders. So again, water should flow right through. There shouldn't be any water in this compartment. You know, hopefully, that's the idea. But I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Just picked up another storage space on the SeaVee. Pumped to just not have all the junk in my seat. I got new storage bins, but I'm just gonna get this organized. Some of this stuff will go in there, and that's where I put my screens, but more storage is always a good thing. And that looks about as, call it commercial boat-esque as I could get it. Again, I'm not a boat builder. I built a boat, but I'm not like a premium whatever boat builder, but I think that turned out pretty good. So drain lines for everything, no water should get in there. Hard floor, fiberglass in. Thanks for watching.